There is a question that has been haunting the Final Fantasy XIV community for years. How much time has passed since our Warrior of Light signed up to be an adventurer? The official answer is that it's just been one really bad year of escalating political tensions and the end of the world a couple times over. But come on, how realistic is that number? Well, today I'm going to try and find out how much time passes in Final Fantasy XIV. Hello world, my name's Atticus and welcome to the 14 Timespan. After our big dungeon morning, we let Mistress Momodi know that we've been scouted by the Scions of the 7th Dawn, and she tells us how to join. We walk up and tell them we're there, but now we know where to go. We sneak up on Tataru singing a song, learn that our name is in fact on the list, and proceed to meet the antecedent. But first, I do the rounds and talk to all the interesting looking NPCs. They might have hints about the time, after all. Currently there's just 3. Arenvald, Ollie, and Abatia. Alba's excited to fight Primals and Imperials without having to salute. Arenvald seems to have had the same crystal dream we did, and Ollie is impressed by how small Tataru can write. We meet with Minfilia. Y'shtola, Ida, Papalimo, and Thancred are all also in the room, along with a masked man we haven't been introduced to yet. Minfilia gives us the rundown on what the Scions of the 7th Dawn are, an extra legal organization focused on dealing with the threat of Primals, and what the Echo is, the thing that knocks us out sometimes. It's capable of giving us visions of the past, and also works as a universal translator, allowing us to understand whatever anyone is saying. The Echo seems to be a rare power, and is somehow instrumental in dealing with the Primal threat, so as someone with the Echo, the Scions would love to have us. She unlocks the use of retainers for us, and shares the Scion's password Wild Rose. The rest of the gang shares some helpful lore, except for Urianger, our new masked friend, who speaks in riddles. Immediately after confirming that we'd like to join, Minfilia hands us our first job. An Amagina and Sons mineral concern caravan was robbed, and within an hour of that happening, several people went missing. Neither event on its own is particularly noteworthy. Robberies and missing persons are unfortunately not too uncommon. However, considering that crystals were stolen, the Scions strongly believe that a Primal is involved. The mining concern has upped their security, so there's not much work left for us to do on that front, so instead, Thancred suggests we head towards Camp Drybone, as that's where most of the missing were last seen. Before that, though, we check back in with the Waking Sands. The Scions have scattered throughout the building, but don't have much more to say. Brent is a merchant we might recognize from the opening carriage or boat ride into town who's delivering a shipment. Arenvald and Abba are talking about how Arenvald has Garlean blood, a facet of himself that Arenvald is not fond of, but Abba states that his is a clean slate, not beholden to his origin. And Owlie reaffirms that the Amalja are most likely behind the case we're dealing with, though it could also be moneyed interests, a Thanalan classic. Another new face, Una Tayun, claims that she is a Scion of the 7th Dawn, even if no one seems to remember her. Which I think technically makes her a Warrior of Light, since she is a Scion of the 7th Dawn from 1.0, and now nobody remembers her. Over in Camp Drybone, we speak to Isambard, the de facto leader, if not an official one. He's promised to help in whatever way he can. Our first task is ensuring some poor souls get a proper burial. There are Amalja lying in wait, however, to attack any who come to retrieve the bodies. We make short work of them and deliver the bodies to Isambard. After having a proper run-in with the Amalja, it's time to ask the common folk and see if they have any leads. And what better way to do that than by speaking to Ungust, merchant. Well, hold on. He was born in Camp Drybone and grew up in the Golden Bazaar, and he knows the people here better than anyone. I find him in the inn right where Isambard said he'd be. And isn't that the obnoxious merchant from before? Also, the barkeep says, I'd remind you there's no brawling in the pub, but you don't seem the listening type, and I'm not sure if he's speaking to me or Ungust. Ungust is quite drunk, but for the worse, he recognizes us. Fortunately, Isambard's letter turns this morning's enemy into this morning's ally. Ungust tells us that the people are even more timid and we should talk to them, and that's what I thought we'd be doing from the get-go, but coming from him, it just feels like he's shirking work. The people are indeed quite scared, and there's talk of people being abducted, but Ungust writes this off as them just leaving for a better place. And then he leaves, and Isambard admits that he should have expected as much from Ungust, just generally unhelpful. His next plan is we could speak to the clergy in case any juicy info has been dropped in confession or prayer. We head towards the church of Adama Landama, and since we're on the way there, he gives us an embalmed body ready for burial. Marks, someone who seems to work at the church, directs us to an empty plot, and Marks recommends we speak to Sister Orson. She thanks us for our work and promises that she'll let us know if she learns anything about the abductions, and then apologizes for Marks in case he offended us in any way. He saw many terrible things during the calamity, and now seems to prefer the company of the dead. We also learned that Thancred was here recently and took offense at Marks' conduct. I wish I knew how recent, but I'm not confident I could claim it was part of this investigation. We report to Isambard, and Thancred himself appears, stating that we've been keeping ourselves busy as late. He's spoken to Ungust a few too many times and has come to the conclusion that it is Sister Orson facilitating the kidnappings, hiding behind the private nature of confessions. He also finds Marks vaguely familiar. Isambard is less convinced that Sister Orson is the villain they're searching for, but Thancred persists. Every rose has thorns, and Isambard admits that she makes seemingly random trips to the Golden Bazaar. To clear the air of suspicion, we head to the Golden Bazaar just a bit northeast of Camp Drybone and speak to a child who reveals that Sister Orson comes here in her spare time to read to the children, and that she went looking for a shiny thing that he lost. Just outside of the city walls, we find Sister Orson in the middle of an evil purple circle. We enter and save her from some zombies. She returns the shiny thing, a ring left to the boy from his mother, and we report to Isambard. Her actions are far from what we'd expect from a kidnapper. So our next plan is to sneak into an Amaljuk encampment. Isambard prays that we're able to find some evidence, emphasis on some. Cut us some slack, at least for trying. Thancred gives an alack for his bad call with Sister Orson, but in tailing her, he chanced across a group of Amalja near the Golden Bazaar and tracked them to this encampment. And here's where we come in. He doesn't want to do the actual infiltration. That's going to be on us. We find a queer leaflet in their camp advertising some kind of work program for the poor. Thancred remarks that it's kinda shoddy though, and likely not official. We ask Sister Orson about it, and she confirms, calls it blasphemous even. The leaflet, that I guess is writ in crayon, sparks a memory, and Sister Orson informs us that some garments were stolen from the church a while back, and that the kidnappers could be someone pretending to be from the church. Which I guess gives some weight to Thancred's initial suspicion of Orson. We report to Isambard, who is glad that there's finally some progress. He's going to continue to keep both his eyes and his ears open. The kidnapper has done a great job of covering their tracks, but now that we know their modus operandi, Thancred has a plan. We pose as an impoverished soul in need of succor and try to get kidnapped. It'll be a dangerous mission, and Isambard can't help us fight, but he can lend us some clothes. A quick aside, I can think of one other instance where a quest requires us to be in disguise, and I just think they should bring that back. Combine it with one of those walk and talk segments. We ask for work all about town and get kicked out of a shop for being too poor, and we learn of an encampment by a pond. We hang out at the pond as a priest comes up to us and... Oh wait, is that Ungust? It's Ungust. When Thancred calls him out, Ungust claims that we tricked him, and then proceeds to claim that he just had to kidnap all those people so that the Amalja would stop kidnapping people from the Golden Bazaar, and also inform the Amalja of scheduled crystal shipments. He didn't have a choice, guys, and the coin was good. He does drop the line, if you want to blame someone for the mess the world's in, then blame yourselves or the gods, which is too good a line for the obnoxious merchant Ungust. We pray return while Thancred further interrogates Ungust. Minfilia sends us on a side quest to learn about materia and how to affix it to our gear to get a little stronger. While not canonical, this sidebar feels like it gives some breathing room to the investigation we've been on, allowing some time to pass while Thancred gets things done behind the scenes. So in our less than canon, I'll call this a day. When we pray return, Minfilia informs us that she's gotten an update from Thancred, a time and a place for a meeting Ungust is supposed to have with the Amalja. The Immortal Flames plan to let the meeting happen and then go in and capture everybody involved. They're not going to go down without a fight, however, and Thancred is tied up with another matter, so we're joining the operation. Back to Camp Drybone, and it turns out the trap we laid for the Amalja was in fact a trap for us. The Amalja have a second man on the inside, this one an immortal flame, and he informed the Amalja ahead of time. Ungus and the traitorous immortal flame are downright giddy about their deception. We fend off waves of Amalja, but Hykan Hatsukcha hits us with a sleep spell while Ungus and the traitorous immortal flame hold someone hostage, and down we go. We awaken in a cave. Just about everyone has been tied up, but they must have run out of rope because we're fine. They even let us keep our weapons. I'm not sure if that's an honor or disrespect. With our trusted party, we enter the Bowl of Embers. The Amalja summon a Primal, their god, Ifrit, and with a blast of blue flame, he tempers all the non-believers present, including Ungus and the traitorous immortal flame, forcibly converting them so that they praise Ifrit. By the power of the Echo, we alone are spared, and I guess our party, but they're not in this cutscene. Temugzo, the Amalja conducting the summoning, believes that our soul must belong to another, and Ifrit seconds that, stating that a mortal frame can serve as vessel to but a single blessing. However, we don't smell like a primal, so he guesses we must be of the godless blessed's number. The Paragons warned him of people like us, and we cannot be tolerated to exist, so it's time to fight God. The fight is sufficiently dramatic, especially with the trust party for the first trial, and we find a cool rock when we beat him. And then Thancred shows up and kills one Amalja. We depart for a nicer setting to debrief, and the camera pans to a Garlean, and I think I skipped the initial cutscene with them. It fell through the cracks between the 3 episode 1s and episode 2. Back then we saw some Garleans. They hinted that they're making moves again, and the one in red armor, Nero Tolskaiva, killed a spy. It turns out he was perched on a nearby cliff watching our fight and was disappointed by Ifrit. Livius Asjunius reprimands him for wasting time, and they head back, having achieved their primary objective. Back in Camp Drybone, Thancred stands next to a lot of people lying still on the ground. He mentions the irreversibility of tempering, and I think I have to assume the immortal flames killed these people to keep them from trying to summon Ifrit again. Thancred congratulates us and himself a bit, and then, to spite me specifically, tells us to take some time to relax, but not too long. I'll mark it as a less than canon day. We did fight a god. Thancred's already there reporting to Minfilia when we return, which lends some credence to time passing, but not a lot and not how much. He's lamenting how he let us down and how close our brush with death was, with him completely unable to help. We walk in and Thancred briefly puts on his cheery persona once more, and he and Minfilia explain to us the threat of primals. Ether is the life force of everything, and in order to exist, primals must consume ether. The stronger they are, measured by the number of worshippers and how fervent their prayers are, the more ether they consume. In particularly chaotic times, like these, more people stake to summoning primals, which consumes more ether, leaving less life force for the rest of the world. Additionally, primals can temper living creatures so that they become worshippers and add to the primal strength. Once tempered, a soul cannot be returned to normal, and Thancred confirms that they are killed. Fortunately for us, the Echo protects us from tempering, which is a major reason why the Scions keep an eye out for capable adventurers with the Echo. As Thancred leaves, he laments that he's not strong enough. Louis Sois would not have let so many people die. We speak to Minfilia again, and she informs us that we have visitors. We've been recognized for our achievements, and every single one of the 3 city-states would like us to join their grand company. We have to swear loyalty to one of them, but not like a lot of loyalty. We can jump ship and join a different one if we want, but we'll make this choice next time. A full day has still not canonically passed, which means it's still day 2, a day where we visited every city-state to get them to join in a Carno memorial service, visited every city-state again to deal with a dungeon, saved a woman from an obnoxious merchant, joined the Scions of the 7th Dawn, got our first mission from the Scions to investigate people going missing in Camp Drybone, for some reason listened to anything the obnoxious merchant had to say, spoke to some clergy members, suspected some clergy members, infiltrated an Amalja camp for clues, used ourselves as bait to get caught by the obnoxious merchant, learned how material works, got kidnapped by the Amalja, and offered up as a sacrifice to their god, who we killed. All in a day's work. Next time, we become a truly grand hero, but until then, I have been Atticus, and thank you for participating.